That's a good question too. Of course, all authors will say, oh, it'll appeal to everybody. But you can't market to the world. I mean, you can, but it's better to kind of hone in. You're kind of looking at her like sort of 35 to 65-ish, mystery lover, somebody who likes a twisty, turny, But there's certainly, men who read my books as well, people of all genders and orientations. But, oftentimes people are drawn to a main character who reflects, them. So, Susan is a, 40-something woman. She's a nurse who worked as a psychiatric nurse. She, she's had a couple of life changes and a situation that happened in her nursing and, career that kind of, that shook her to her core. So she stepped away from nursing and she's kind of trying to figure out what she wants to do. She's very athletic, which I'm not. I'm sorry. I sports when I was younger, but I'm more of a yoga walking girl now. But Susan loves to do, beach boot camp and she's a runner, which I'm not. And she's very empathetic. She's kind. She always wants to help other people, and sometimes to her own detriment.
Everybody, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter author podcast, where we get to meet amazing authors from around the world. I love this author, not only because of what she does as an author, but she helps authors. And she's just a great human being. And on top of that, Canadian. But what else can you ask for, right? The whole package. I'm excited. Anne's here, and we're going to be talking through her journey, her own authorship journey, and again, how she helps authors. A great person to meet, a great person to know, and welcome to the show. Glad to have you here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm very excited that we're finally making it happen.
After all this time, we finally got time together, and well, it's because you're so busy. Let's be honest, everybody. Anne is so busy doing all the things, right? I think whatever. But we're here, and we made it happen. It's good.
We are. Too many fun
Excellent.
Things going on.
Now, for people hearing your voice for the first time, Anne, there's a little thing there, and when I hear you talk, that makes me pretty well identify where you're from, because I can hear it. I can hear it in your voice, and I love it. I love it. And tell everybody, where do you live?
I'm a maritimer. I live in Halifax, Nova Scotia. So, yay. Born in New Brunswick, but moved to Nova Scotia when I was 3. Traveled around the world for 20 some odd years and then returned home in 2016. And I'm so happy to be home. There's nothing like the East Coast of Canada.
Just so everybody knows, if you've never been to the East Coast of Canada, that's where they sent all of the nicest people to live. And then there's the rest of us. So I'm in Ontario, and we won't even go there. But all of the nicest people are moved out to that part of the world. So if you want to meet great Canadians, start there. And then as you go across the country, we'll see what happens. But that's where the nicest people are. Would you agree, Anne?
Well, yeah, I'd have to say you're a pretty nice guy, too.
I'll
so
send you $5 for that. There you go. I like that.
Yeah, and I have family in Ontario, so... Although they're transplants.
Okay, there you go. Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about your website and what you do to help authors. I'd love to start there. I've had the opportunity to talk to some of your authors on this show, and they are the best people, again, in the world. They work with you, which is one reason, but part two, they're just great people. So thank you for sending great authors my way. I appreciate it. But talk a little bit about OC Publishing, .ca and what you do and who you help. I'd love to know more.
Thank you. Well, and thank you so much for your support of authors of all ilks, from, traditional indie and every genre, like from here to the end of eternity. So we appreciate what you do as well. And as you said, a few of my authors have been on. Living the Next Chapter and have thoroughly enjoyed it. So you do tend to bring the best out in people. You're welcome. I was just sharing with you before we started that amazingly 2026, so coming up next year, will be the 10th anniversary of OC Publishing.
Everyone's applauding right now.
Yay!
Congratulations.
Thank you. ocpublishing.ca or .com. You can get to it either way. And when I moved home in 2016, I'd already started writing my own books. I had started, doing writing workshops. I had been exploring, 15 years ago or more, started exploring, the self-publishing realm, which was really new at that point, not very well understood, and is still a little misunderstood to this day. But so I had a traditionally published book that was a nonfiction about getting settled in Dubai when I was living there at the time. And then I really embraced writing fiction. I love writing fiction, mystery in particular, crime fiction. And I always loved to teach anything I've just learned to do. So I was at that time teaching other people how to self-publish. And then, like I said, when I moved home in 2016, I thought, maybe I should formalize this. So I started OC Publishing initially as a sole proprietorship, and then very quickly after incorporated. And now I have about 21 authors that I work with.
Wow.
Most who have done more than one book with me. And just all incredible people, and some international, majority Canadian, a couple of folks from the US and another gal from UK. But the Atlantic provinces are just extremely active in sort of the literary sense. Lots of inspiration abounds, I guess. So. The majority of the last few years have been fellow Maritimers. But yeah, it just continues to grow. And obviously, I've found a niche that was in demand. So I'm a hybrid publisher. OC Publishing is a hybrid publisher, which is a cross between traditional and self-publishing, and is a fee-to-publish model.
Okay. So for a reader who doesn't understand publishing, can you just make that a little bit clear for a reader? Because an author might know exactly what you just said, but a reader's like, I don't understand how a book is even written to begin with. But that hybrid model then, so the authors are coming to you and you're helping them to get it published? Is that kind of the idea?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what? And it's not well known like across the board. Even authors who come to me aren't quite sure. And other publishers, aren't familiar with it, at least in this part of the world. Yes, it basically, we partner with the authors that come to us, and we help them in every phase of the publishing process. So the difference is the authors are probably more involved than in a traditional model. They have more input to design and that kind of thing. But they invest in the development of their own project. And what I think a lot of people don't recognize or know is that in traditional publishing, the majority of, bigger traditional publishing companies are funded by the government. So you and I pay for an author who's being traditionally published. And I'm very supportive of that. I wholeheartedly support that model as well. But I think there are a lot of opportunities that are missed because, there are a finite number of manuscripts that are accepted, in a traditional publishing house. So, what I do is a lot of hands-on, a lot of mentoring. And so it's different than sort of a self-publishing service. So that's yet another sort of pathway that you would, go to Tellwell or maybe even Friesen, and you're paying for a service, but there's not as much personal attention.
So a new author reaches out to you for a first-time connection with you and what you do at OC Publishing. What is like maybe one or two questions that you get asked frequently from a new author trying to figure out their next steps? Maybe we can answer that for you, so you can have to answer less of those. They can listen to the podcast. What are a couple questions that you get most often from new people reaching out to you?
Sure. Well, the first is, can you publish my book? And, how long does it take? And that depends on, the shape of the manuscript when it comes to us. How much editing is involved. So it can take up to a year. And then, of course, how much is it going to cost if it's, a hybrid pay to publish model. And I always say it's a range between $5,000 and $7,000. But that's soup to nuts. And there is a part of the process that includes marketing. But, what a lot of authors don't understand is that regardless of the pathway you choose, you will have to do a lot of your own marketing. And it's tough. It's not easy. It's complex. A lot of people don't take to it. And a lot of people aren't comfortable doing this kind of thing, podcasts or interviews and things. And the only way to get your book out there is to talk about it and share.
So maybe some book signings or something to get your word out there, to write it and then expect the world to find it. It's a little hard, right? You got to do something to get it out there.
Yeah.
It's a selfish question, but the idea of being on a podcast, is it when your authors come on as a guest on the show of a podcast, this or any other show, are they experiencing, like, is it a rewarding thing for them to invest time to come on a podcast and talk about their book? Like, is it helping them to sell books? That's my hope for this show.
Yeah, you know what? It's almost impossible to pinpoint exactly where a sale comes from. And I'm just going to put this out there to any author who's doing really, really well. If you have the magic bullet, let us know. We see spikes here and there. In answer to your question directly, the authors that I have sent to you have loved the experience. And, we know that it's reaching lots of folks. So hopefully that translates into book sales. I have seen it like a spike that, I could tie directly to a particular initiative was when we were able to, and we were fortunate enough, but there was a lot of hard work involved, that OC Publishing became a GCA certified publisher. So we are globally certified, accessible to publish accessible ebooks. Nice. So I recognized as accessible. So I saw a spike there. I saw a spike when Ingram focused specifically on other language books. And we have a children's book called The Purple Frog that was translated into Mi'kmaq. So it's called the Niskananimuk.
That's fun to say. Wow.
Isn't that fun?
Well
I
done.
practice that a lot, believe me. So I saw a spike in the sales for that book. And that was fairly recently, just about a week ago.
Okay.
So, these are the types of efforts that are really important, and getting out there and, being face to face and, talking about your book. And, especially if your book is evergreen, children's books, and fiction, of course, is always evergreen. I go back and read classics all the time. So don't worry about talking about a book you wrote 10 years ago, because, there's still an audience.
I think it's a good action item for listeners as readers. When you find an author you love, don't keep it to yourself. Don't just buy the book, throw it on the shelf behind you and never mention it. Tell people. The more people that find these authors, the better. And understanding that there's a cost involved to even get the book into the world, which has to be repaid. They have to make their money back to at least cover the cost of writing the book, let alone the years of pouring into this idea and crafting a story and editing and on and on and on, right? These authors, when you see a book on a shelf, that book's probably not even paid for yet for that author. So you buying it, supporting it, telling others, buying multiple copies, you're helping that person not just regain the money they've invested, but to see a profit at the end of the day. That's what we all want, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes for, authors who have a traditional contract who received in advance. That author has to pay out that advance before they start seeing any royalties. And I want to comment, I'm really pleased that people are more likely to talk about books these days. And it's become cool to read books, and, Reese's Book Club, and, TikTok Book Talk, and things that have really kind of bubbled up with influencers who are voracious readers. So I think that I love that trend. We're seeing pubs and craft breweries here hosting quiet reading nights. So and that's a lot of fun. Yay, good robot, and lots of other places that are doing it. But I applaud people who are recognizing just how valuable, especially when we're seeing, elsewhere, really good books being banned, and libraries doing kind of foolish things, taking certain books off shelves. And but we don't need to go on that. We're going to stay on the positive.
I think it's a great alternative to being tied to your screen, your mobile device, your computer, your laptop, your tablet, to shut all those screens off, grab a paper book, and go sit outside with the birds chirping on the patio, grab your favorite drink, right?
It brings, for sure. It brings me great joy the first time I hold like a print copy of a book in hand. And I really hug it. Now, I know that there's certainly environmental issues and people worried about, trees being cut down and so on. I like to use recycled paper in my books.
Wow.
So I do give the authors sort of that leeway, and some prefer like this pretty cream colored paper, which is really nice. But the recycled paper also has a really nice feel to it too. So this has, and it's still nice and clear, and there's no bleed through, which, I'm all about quality. Yeah.
That's another advantage for anybody that was a little hesitant about buying a paperback book. Then come on, OC Publishing. You can get a great book and save the planet at the same time. Come on. There you go.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Or, if you're an ebook reader, whatever device you read on, most of our books are on the OC Publishing bookshop in ebook. So if you have a look and scroll on through, if that's your preferred way to read. And we just received our accessible certification a couple of years ago. So majority that are on there are GCA certified, but there are a few that, were out prior to that. And then there might be a couple of PDFs, but they're mostly EPUBs.
Are you accepting authors at all? And can somebody reach out to you and say, I'm interested in talking to you or at some point?
I always welcome, people to reach out and ask questions. Currently, we're closed for unsolicited submissions because we're, and I do that because our publishing calendar is scheduled to the end of 2026. So, I don't like to say, oh yeah, sure, we'll sign you on, and then say, but your book can't come out until 2028 or whatever. Because a lot of times people will go the hybrid or self-publishing route because they don't want to wait 2 or 3 years, which is the norm for traditional publishing. And that there are other, companies that, offer a similar I feel like we're the kind of the only one that does what we do in the Atlantic region in Atlantic Canada. But there's others, and it doesn't have to be in your own region or even in your own country. And generally, you can get your book out a little more quickly. Now, having said that, if somebody out there wants to self-publish, I will coach an author to self-publish their book. I will hold your hand step by step, as many hours as needed. You might only need a couple hours of sort of direction and guidance, and some people want that help right to the end. So that I'm open to at any time.
We can reach you through the website for that as well then.
Yes, absolutely. ocpublishing.ca or .com. That's OC Publishing, all together, all lowercase, .ca.
Awesome. We'll have a link for everybody in the notes as well. Go there. Thank you for offering that service to authors as well, because I think people listening to this are like, I love the sound of Anne's voice. Sounds like she's a great human being, which I can attest to. And maybe she has time for me. I have questions, so people can reach out. That's great. All right.
Absolutely.
So let's switch gears from you helping all these great authors, which I love. They're great people, to your own writing. Not only do you have time to help everybody else, you're also an author yourself. How did your author journey begin yourself personally?
Oh, well, gosh, I mean, how long do you have? I've written since I was a kid. We had a bookmobile in our little town in Clayton Park, Halifax, Nova Scotia. So reading was always a big part of my life, of our whole family. My parents were readers, all my siblings. And so I love a good story. We're all like storytellers. Someone asks me, can you shorten this story? I'm like, I don't think so. So fast forward, my career but I was an early childhood educator, and then I went into PR. So tons of writing throughout my PR career. And then I started teaching people, business writing and all that kind of stuff. I've got a very active imagination. So after I wrote my first nonfiction book, and that was it, I connected with a publisher who was in the UK. I had been writing, short stories about my experiences getting established in Dubai. And I loved the process of putting together, a full-length book, and shared lots of anecdotes and things like that. Simultaneously, you might, I don't know, anyway, a trigger warning, menopause. Simultaneously, I was starting to experience perimenopause. And how do you work through something that you're going through emotionally, physically, mentally? Well, writers write. So I started writing what it felt like to have a night sweat and a hot flash. And I laughed and I cried. And I created a character named Abby who was having a worse time of it, and then just expanded into a story. So it was really kind of happenstance. It wasn't planned. And that was my first novel. That won an IPPY award. So this was 2013, and people are still reading and loving it. And so it turned in, and I always, for some reason, I have this twist that, I start writing about something, or I have this imagination. And of course, I love reading crime fiction and mystery and thriller and detective. And I watch all of the shows, CSI, Bones, all of them. So there's always a mystery twist, or, a crime that occurs. So poor Abby winds up on trial for murder because, when we're going through the hell of menopause, we want to kill everyone. So
now that's a trigger warning right there.
Right. Yeah. I'm only half kidding. So around that same time, I moved to Thailand, and was, wasn't settled, didn't really have, my feet firmly planted, but I was still doing, online copy editing, which I'd started doing when we moved to Dubai. So I was, doing project work kind of thing, freelance writing. And I just had all of a sudden, because of news pieces I had seen, stories that friends had told us, friends who were in Dubai, I just started piecing together this mystery, which wound up being, the first of the deep mystery series, Deep Deceit. And one of my co-writer friends said, "Oh my gosh, that should be a series." And I'm like, I really hadn't thought of it that way. So, like I said, kind of happenstance, people, jumping in front of my pathway, kind of redirecting me thinking, "Ooh, that's not a bad little alley to go down," or, follow that rabbit hole.
That's interesting because I got talked to somebody today for a pre-interview, and they have a 7-series book they're writing. They're on book 1. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm tired just talking to you. Like 7 in a series, and you're just starting now. And I'm like, how? Like, that's the intent. They wants those 7 books, and he's already got a plan. But when you start a book that's not meant to be a series at first, do you have to kind of go back and rethink some of your storyline a little bit and to expand some of these characters? Like, how do you even switch gears like that?
That's a really good question. So the person, PJ Stanley, I love her, who's also an author, had said to me, "Oh, so in the first book, they were kind of parallel main characters, Susan Morris and then her friend Celeste. And in the book, Celeste's daughter goes missing, and so that's when the mystery ensued. So there was a beginning, a middle, and an end. It was all wrapped up in a bow, and I didn't even think of it. And PJ says to me, "Anne, you have a series here. Susan makes a really fascinating character. People want to know more about her. How did she get rolled up into this? What's she going to do next?" And all that kind of thing. And so, of course, ideas started percolating. And then, I had this vision. There's a ski hill in Dubai. And I dream story ideas. So that's Dubai? The other thing.
Wait a minute.
A ski hill in the mall, inside the mall.
Okay, sorry, I had to pause there because I don't see Dubai as a go-to ski location. Okay.
No. Although it's very popular to sandsurf.
Okay, all right.
So, yeah. So I did do that, and that was a lot of fun. But yes, there's a ski hill, an indoor ski hill in Dubai. And I had this wild dream one night that the chairlift, one of the chairs on the chairlift detached from the cable and crashed to the ground. So that's in the opening scene of book 2 in the Deep Mysteries, Deep Freeze. And so this is kind of metaphorical for a lot of different things that happen, parallel plot lines in the book. So your question about series. So I started looking at, what it takes to write a series. And of course, I'm, like I said, voracious reader of mysteries. And Sue Grafton wrote the alphabet mysteries. A is for alibi, B is for burglar. Anyway. So, and I love the P.D. James mysteries. And sometimes what those books have in common that I embraced is that you don't have to read them in order. Like one book isn't a continuation of the previous one. So the main thing is the main character in the book, whether it's, a detective or, a forensic anthropologist or, an old woman who just likes to solve mysteries. And I shouldn't say old, middle-aged woman who likes to solve mysteries. So what I had was a possibility of doing each book is a standalone. Nice. So now, mind you, the main character does evolve through each one. And, when I started thinking about this series, I was living in Thailand. So the second, always knew the second. So the first 2 are set in Dubai. I always knew that the first and second the second one was going to be in Dubai. But then I was going to set it where I was living because that's the environment I'm most familiar with. And then I left Thailand. And again, the things come at me from all different directions. I had a standalone book that I had started outlining that had nothing to do with this, that was going to be called Paris at Last. I've visited Paris many times. I love Paris. And so I knew at some point I would write about it. Well, there was an older woman in my life at the time. Actually, she was my mother-in-law then, but she's not anymore. That inspired me to write this book about an older woman who loses her husband, and she fulfills a lifelong dream of moving to Paris, Paris at Last. And I thought, geez, I want to write that, but I've got the series going. So then I went, I'll change that into a deep mystery. So the next one I'm working on now is called Deep River. It's set in Paris, and the main character of my original idea has become Susan's aunt, who was mentioned toward the end of Deep Freeze. So at the end, I'm not going to spoil it. So yeah. And then I've moved back home to Nova Scotia, and I thought, well, in the next book, in Deep River, while she's in Paris, she's going to learn that she has Acadian roots. So she's kind of at a loss for what to do, for the next phase of her life. And again, I won't tell you why. She's sort of kind of, regrouping and trying to figure out her next life step. But she's going to decide to move to Nova Scotia and, buy an old house or something and finish it, refurbish it. So I have at least, and then I've got one sort of percolating after that. So I've got at least 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got at least 5.
My brain doesn't work like that. So I'm amazed to hear you unpack that, because I don't know if it's just that I'm a guy and that I can do one thing at a time, but I love that you have all this going on in your mind and all this at the same time. And the one thing
you should see what's in front of me, like notes and stacks and 4 pairs of glasses and notebooks and books that I'm supposed to be reading. And
it sounds like your character is, let me do this, living their next chapter as they go through your stories, right? Come on.
Yes,
is that okay?
Yes, indeed.
Well done.
Well done, yes. And so am I. So am I, I spent many years when I moved home being a caregiver to my mom. So she just passed away last year. So it's one of those, now what, right? So, a lot of things were happening parallel to it, but, still, it's a big loss when you lose your mom.
Tell me about your reader. Who do you have in mind for this series of books? Who, if you could meet them at your local cafe there in Nova Scotia, have a tea or a coffee with them, who would walk in the door? Who do you expect this to be?
That's a good question too. Of course, all authors will say, it'll appeal to everybody. But you can't market to the world. I mean, you can, but it's better to kind of hone in. You're kind of looking at her like sort of 35 to 65-ish, mystery lover, somebody who likes a twisty, turny, But there's certainly, men who read my books as well, people of all genders and orientations. But, oftentimes people are drawn to a main character who reflects, them. So, Susan is a, 40-something woman. She's a nurse who worked as a psychiatric nurse. She, she's had a couple of life changes and a situation that happened in her nursing and, career that kind of, that shook her to her core. So she stepped away from nursing and she's kind of trying to figure out what she wants to do. She's very athletic, which I'm not. Sorry. I sports when I was younger, but I'm more of a yoga walking girl now. But Susan loves to do, beach boot camp and, and she's a runner, which I'm not. And she's very empathetic. She's kind. She always wants to help other people, and sometimes to her own detriment.
All right. One thing we talked about when we first got on together was the possibility that maybe you could read a little bit for us from your book. I always love when an author reads to us, because when I read it, I'm reading it through my lens and kind of how I see the words. But when an author reads to us, it's from the creator of the book, right? So you already kind of know what's coming next, and I get a different feeling as an author reads to us. So is it okay for you to read a little bit for us? And what book are you going to read to us
sure.
from?
You take another little sip. Sorry about that. I guess I'm talking too much. This is my favorite mug.
Yes.
One of my favorites, meowing you. Because I'm an old cat lady. So I thought I would read, I was kind of torn, but I thought I would read an excerpt from the first in the Deep Mystery series. The second one is out as well. But this one is Deep Deceit. And this is set in Dubai and Saudi Arabia. And the storyline revolves around the missing daughter of a friend of the main character, Susan. So this particular excerpt, it's sort of, there's a couple of scene breaks. So I thought it would be kind of interesting to see a couple of different points of view. So my books also they're written in third person, but I usually have 3 or 4 different points of view, which are separated either by scene or by chapter. So in the first scene, Susan is with her friend Celeste, whose daughter has just gone missing. So of course Celeste is inconsolable. She's just beside herself. Her daughter Tamara is 18, so technically an adult, and the police in Dubai just don't think that there's anything nefarious going on, because she's probably just stayed out overnight after a party or something, as kids just tend to do. But in Dubai, if you're not, you don't have to be underage or even overage. Public intoxication is illegal. So what kind of triggered this whole storyline was friends of ours who said that their daughter had been at a party and one of her friend's boyfriends had gone missing. And turned up he had been taken to jail because he was visibly intoxicated.
Right.
Crazy, right? Okay. So we're Susan and Celeste. I hope you slept well, said Susan, because I've got a long list of things to do. I'll fix us some breakfast. It's important to keep your strength up, Susan tried to sound stern, but the deep lines etched on Celeste's face broke her heart. She looked like death. I'm not really hungry. Her voice cracked as she held up Tamara's backpack. I remembered Tamara stuffing something in her closet the other night when she came home and smelled like booze, and I just went to check. A sob escaped from her lips, and she dropped onto the sofa. What's in it? Susan took the bag, reached in, and pulled out a small piece of red fabric. She unbunched it and held it up. Wow, this is the skimpiest little dress I've ever... Celeste's moan sent a chill down Susan's spine. Oh, now, Celeste, don't jump to conclusions. This doesn't mean anything. She dug deeper into the bag and removed a pair of black stilettos. So now we have a scene change, and we're in Tamara's point of view. Tamara sat on the bed. Her hands were sore from hammering on the door. How could it be locked from the outside? Someone's idea of a sick joke? Tamara wasn't laughing, as snippets of the night before bounced around her befuddled brain. She had a vague recollection of a limousine ride. Strange faces floated in and out of her memory, like a bottle bobbing on the ocean. She lay down and put the covers back over her head and fell into a disturbed sleep. The sound of rattling metal startled her awake, and she threw the comforter off and sprinted across the room just as the door clicked closed and a key turned in the lock. Hey! She grabbed the doorknob and twisted, but it was too late. Unlock this door! Tamara kicked the hard oak with her bare foot. She crumbled into a heap on the floor, holding her toe in agony, and started to cry. Why are you doing this to me? Who are you? She sputtered through the tears. Whoever it was had brought food and left it on an ornate writing desk a few feet away. She realized she was starving, but wasn't sure she'd be able to force anything past the huge lump that had formed in her throat.
There you go. Again, I do love listening to an author read their book. It's like a huge joy to experience that. It's great. I love it. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of great visuals in there. I really feel like I'm in the room. I feel like I'm there. I don't feel like I belong there as a reader. Like I shouldn't be there right now, but I am there. And I love how you draw us into the story. That's great.
Thank you. And that's kind of in the middle. Well, sort of, maybe a third of the way through.
All right. Your love letter, Anne, to a reader. We kind of identified who they are. But if you could have a few moments with them to kind of explain what the series is about, what your intent is for them as a reader, kind of just I'm going to just throw the mic over to you, and you just talk to them right now. What is your hopes? What is your vision for these books and how they're going to connect with people? What's your intent? What's your love letter?
So, dear reader, I hope you enjoy my books and get a sense of resilience and compassion from how the main character behaves, and also maybe a sense of the bad guy gets it. So most of my books are happy endings, and that's become, something that people ask because a lot of people don't want to read a book that doesn't have a happy ending. But they're happy endings with maybe a slight cliffhanger. So, as I've been writing this series, I'm thinking, how do I want to end this that makes them want to continue following Susan on her journey? I think that, my hope is also for people to empathize with Susan, to understand that some of the life experiences that she's going through aren't unique to her, that everyone has, things that happen in their life, both joyful and devastating. And hopefully, as she moves through, the evolutions of each phase of her life, that she does it with grace, but with some pitfalls, and makes some mistakes like we all do. And that the storyline is interesting and hopefully a little shocking at times, and that the mystery that is woven through is intriguing, and that hopefully you don't guess the ending before you get there. But people, if you are a reader that loves to figure out the ending and hasn't figured out and feels, a sense of accomplishment and joy that you have figured it out, then I applaud you. And if either way, if you get to the end and you say, oh, I didn't see that coming, but it makes sense. Oh, that makes sense. Then that's a good thing.
And more books coming in the future as well. So when you fall in love with one, you're going to get many with Anne. So that's exciting to know that there's more in the process. And, we can anticipate more and more releases as well. And that gives me more opportunities to have you back to reconnect and to celebrate as you continue to launch more books. And that's exciting for me as well.
Back.
So,
yes. And I've actually, it's become tradition that my books will launch on International Women's Day, March 8th, every other year. So even though it was 10 years since the last one, my first developmental pause was 2013, Deceit was 2015, nice. And then 10 years to the day, Deep Freeze. But I won't make you wait that long. So it'll be 2027, March 8th of 2027. Right. that Deep River will come out, book 3 in the Deep Mystery
That's
series.
good to hear. Okay, great. So beyond ocpublishing.ca.com, the 2 places, anywhere else that we want to send people maybe to connect with you directly, Anne, about your journey as an author?
Sure. I'm on Facebook. So my Facebook is, I think I had pulled that. Hang on a second. I don't think you'll be able to see it. Facebook.com/Anne Louise O'Connell. And that's all together, all lowercase. And that's probably the best place. I'm on Instagram, OCPubHFX, and LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a good spot as well.
Lots of places to connect. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, like I said, keep me in mind. I'd love to have you back. Send me more of your amazing authors because I love them all. They're just great people. I can tell they're great people because they chose you. So that tells me they're great people. So that's how I know. That's my filter, just so you know. So if you're coming from Anne, you're already on the show.
And just, and I guess just to clarify as well, we do vet all manuscripts. We don't publish everything that comes in, and we focus on specific genres. Yeah. So make sure you check the submission page. So mystery, memoir, historical fiction, women's fiction, young adult, middle grade, and children's picture books.
It's a wide variety there. There's a lot of room. So if you're writing in that area, reach out. And again, like Anne mentioned, if you're looking to self-publish and you want to have a great person in your corner helping you throughout the whole process, Anne is just a sweet person. You're going to love working with her. So reach out to her today. I know she'd love to have a conversation with you, have a quick chat, see what your plans are and how the 2 of you can work together as an author and a great publisher. Anne, thank you so much for not only sending me great people and helping other authors, for also for writing your own books and contributing to the world of readers. It's great.
Totally my pleasure. I couldn't see doing anything else, so I'm glad that it's finding its way to people, and have so enjoyed chatting with you today.
Thank you. Everyone, all the information is always in the show notes. Go click through and let Anne know when you buy her books, you're going to leave a great review, because I know Anne would love to hear what your thoughts on her books. And that also is a signal to everyone else that this is a book worth purchasing because of what you share in those words in your review. Make it a timely review, make it meaningful, add some value to your review as well. It's going to help more people find the books and find Anne and her great authors through OC Publishing as well. Anne, thank you so much for doing this.
You're very welcome. Excellent. Thank you for having me.
Hey, as we exit the podcast, as we leave out the door, I know the car's running. Somebody's eagerly waiting for you to get out there and go home. As we exit the podcast, I just want to ask, if you have time, I would truly appreciate it. We ask for you to do this for our authors. When you buy your book, we ask you to leave a review. Why? Because it means a lot to the author, and it tells other people that the book is great. Now, you don't hear me ask for this very often, so I'm going to do this here because we're friends, right? You and I are friends. I would love a review of this show because it'll tell more people to come and listen to this podcast. So if you have Apple, wherever you're listening, there's probably some way to give a star rating or leave a comment about the show. YouTube, you can always leave comments on YouTube. Every episode's there. I'd love to hear from you. Leave a review, leave a rating, and share this with somebody. That's probably the best way to grow the podcast, is for you to share it. And by listening to the end of the episode, like you're doing right now, tells all the apps this is a good podcast. So thank you for already helping me by listening to this part. But go leave a review. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And thank you for being part of the podcast family. Take care.